كلا إنهم عن ربهم يومئذ لمحجوبون ثم إنهم لصالو الجحيم ثم يقال هذا الذي كنتم به تكذبون كلا إن كتاب الأبرار لفي عليين وما أدراك ما عليون كتاب مرقوم يشهده المقربون إن الأبرار لفي نعيم على الأرائك ينظرون تعرف في وجوههم نضرة النعيم يسقون من رحيق مختوم ختامه مسك وفي ذلك فليتنافس المتنافسون ومزاجه من تسنيم عينا يشرب بها المقربون إن الذين أجرموا كانوا من الذين آمنوا يضحكون وإذا مروا بهم يتغامزون وإذا انقلبوا إلى أهلهم انقلبوا فكهين وإذا رأوهم قالوا إن هؤلاء لضالون وما أرسلوا عليهم حافظين فاليوم الذين آمنوا من الكفار يضحكون على الأرائك ينظرون هل ثوب الكفار ما كانوا يفعلون صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. نهدي ثواب هذه القراءة إلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات. إن شاء الله ندعو جميعا إلى يعني بنية شفاء رئيس دولة إيران ووزير خارجيتها والحشد الذي كان معهم في الطائرة. May Allah save them, inshallah, all. Please recite Surah Al-Fatiha for their safety, inshallah. Salawat.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Brother Ali, for the beautiful recitation and well, it's Milad and we'll be celebrating the birth of Imam Rida. It is a dire state for our community, for our nation worldwide. With that said, we'll still have to, the day and the celebration of Imam Rida is in place. And Brother Muhammad Manikia, if you don't mind joining us for the poetry, with a loud salawat, inshallah.
محمد وآل محمد صلوات. ارباب 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 رضا مولا، ارباب 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 رضا مولا، سلطان عرب شاہ خراسان، ارباب رضا مولا، سلطان عرب شاہ خراسان، ارباب رضا مولا. نوبت ہے تیری شاہی کا اعلان، ارباب 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 رضا مولا، سلطان عرب شاہ خراسان، ارباب رضا مولا. تبدیلیاں تو لوح پہ کرتا ہے قلم سے، واقف ہے زمانہ تیرے انداز کرم سے، اللہ بھی رکھتا ہے تیرا مان، ارباب 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 رضا مولا، سلطان عرب شاہ خراسان، ارباب رضا مولا. روزے کی زیارت میں عجب حج کا مزہ ہے، زمزم ہے سبیل اور منا صحن شفا ہے، روزہ ہے تیرا کعبہ ایمان، ارباب 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 رضا مولا، سلطان عرب شاہ خراسان، ارباب رضا مولا. ہر ایک پہ کونین میں احسان تیرے ہیں، قرآن کی قسم لولو مرجان تیرے ہیں، ہے شان تیری سورہ رحمان، ارباب 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 رضا مولا، سلطان عرب شاہ خراسان، ارباب رضا مولا. ہو آئے نجف پھر بھی خسارے میں رہے گا، شبیر کے روزے پہ اسے کچھ نہ ملے گا، ہے جان کے جو آپ سے انجان، ارباب 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 رضا مولا، سلطان عرب شاہ خراسان، ارباب رضا مولا. ہے عرض یہی بارگاہ شاہ زمان میں، مومن نہ رہے کوئی پریشان جہاں میں، بس آپ کا دشمن ہو پریشان، ارباب 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 رضا مولا، سلطان عرب شاہ خراسان، ارباب رضا مولا. اولاد کا طالب کوئی طالب ہو شفا کا، معصوم قم کا انہیں دے دیجئے صدقہ، ان سب پہ بھی کر دیجئے احسان، ارباب 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 رضا مولا، سلطان عرب شاہ خراسان، ارباب رضا مولا. دیبل کو ثنا کے لیے بلواتے تھے جیسے، ہے عرض کہ مجھ کو بھی بلا لیجئے ویسے، ہے میر حسن میر کا ارمان، ارباب 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 رضا مولا، سلطان عرب شاہ خراسان، ارباب رضا مولا، سلطان عرب شاہ خراسان، ارباب رضا مولا. بر محمد و آل محمد صلوات.
Thank you so much, Brother Muhammad. The beautiful and rhythmic poetry. Brother Saeed, if you don't mind joining us for next. As always, thank you for the slides.
سلام علیکم. اعوذ بالله من الشیطان الرجیم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم. و هو العلی العظیم. هو الاول و الاخر و الظاهر و الباطن و هو بكل شیء علیم. صدق الله العلی العظیم. اللهم صل علی محمد و آل محمد و عجل فرجه. باذن الله و رسوله و باذن مولانا امیر المؤمنین. السلام علیک یا فاطمة الزهرا. السلام علیک یا حجة ابن الحسن. صلی الله علیک یا ابا عبدالله. سحر از دامن نجمه مهی تابنده تابان شد. چو خورشید جهان آرا درخشید و نمایان شد. جهان از طلعت رویش سراسر باغ رضوان شد. مدینه گویا امشب فضایش نورباران شد. عطا گردیده بر موسی به هیندست گل عطرت. محمد روح و زهرا خو علی قامت علی سیرت. مدینه از طلوع نور او وادی سینا شد. به چشم اهل دل این شهر چون فردوس اعلا شد. منور زین ولادت دیدگان اهل معنا شد. عطا از سوی داور در مکنونی به موسی شد. مبارک باد این میلاد بر اولاد پیغمبر. مبارک باد بر نجمه. مبارک موسی جعفر. دهم حجت ز سوی حضرت پروردگار است این. امام هشتم امت ز سوی کردگار است این. دلیل و رهنمای خلق و نور و آشکار است این. سلیل و پاره تن بر رسول تاجدار است این. الا ای شیعیان مژده که نور منجلی آمد. فروغ دیدگان مصطفی سوم علی آمد. الا ای دردمندان این طبیب دردها باشد. بدو رو آورید اینک که او دردآشنا باشد. بدو رو آورید اینک که او دردآشنا باشد. انشاءالله به حق امام رضا. The status of our president آقای رئیسی is safe انشاءالله. بدو رو آورید اینک که او دردآشنا باشد. یا امام رضا. نگاه او به درد بیدوا بالله دوا باشد. حریم اطهرش ای مؤمنین دار و شفا باشد. شب میلاد او باید توسل جست بر مولا. که بر ما هم نظر فرماید امشب آن مه والا. که بر ما هم نظر فرماید امشب آن مه والا. الا ای آن که بر عالم امام و رهنمایی تو. ولی الله بر حقی و بر ما پیشوایی تو. رضایی تو رضایی تو رضایی تو رضایی تو. تمام مشکلات خلق را مشکل گشایی تو. رضایی تو رضایی تو. رضا جان امشب از راه کرم لطفی به ما فرما، برای بخشش جرم و گناه ما دعا فرما. شب میلاد مسعود تو آمد ای پناه ما، ز رأفت یک نظر فرما بر این حال تباه ما. دعا کن تا خدا امشب ببخشاید گناه ما، نماید عفو از لطفش به هرچه اشتباه ما. بهین ایدی ما آمرزش جرم و خطا باشد، رضا جان با رضای تو خدا از ما رضا باشد. رضا جان با رضای تو خدا از ما رضا باشد. بهین ایدی ما حفظ نظام و کشور است آقا، بهین ایدی ما حفظ نظام و کشور است آقا. هما عافیت خواهی برای رهبر ما است آقا، هما عافیت خواهی برای رهبر است آقا. ظهور مهدی موعود آن دین پرور است آقا، عیان گردیدن روی عدالت گستر است آقا. دعا کن بر ظهورش ای فروغ دیده زهرا، که با حکم فرج خلاق ما عیدی دهد ما را، که با حکم فرج خلاق ما عیدی دهد ما را انشاءالله. اللهم صل علی علی ابن موسی رضا المرتضی الامام التقی النقی و حجتک علی من فوق الارض و من تحت الثری الصدیق الشهید. صلاة کثیرة تامة زاکیة متواصلة متواترة مترادفة كأفصل ما صلى الله على صليت على أحد من أوليائك. ذكركم في الذاكرين، اسماءكم في الأسماء، وأرواحكم في الأرواح. اللهم صل على فاطمة وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها والسر المستودع فيها بعدد ما أحاط به علمك. صلوات بر محمد و آل محمد.
Thank you, Brother Saeed, and inshallah, with tawassul to Imam Rada, the state of our affairs will be improved. Brother Hassan Akhtar, for the last poetry, please join us with the loud salawat.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Wiladat of Imam Raza alayhi salam, Mubarak to you all. Please recite salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali. So this is Urdu poetry in the praise of Imam Raza alayhi salam. Unfortunately, we don't have a translation at this time, but I will just give you a gist of that. And Imam Raza was the one who revolutionized the mind of the people. Although he was so oppressed and away from his home, the Mashhad is illuminated because of his presence. And with his hikmah, he saved the religion of Islam from the Abbasi Khalifas. And he was like a son for the deen. And he rejected the worldly rule, but he ruled on the hearts of the people. And he started a revolution. And he was the fit person to counter the Abbasi Khalifa. And he was a gate to the paradise, in other words. So inshallah, through that gate, we all hope to enter. Salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. ज़हनों का इनक़िलाब रज़ाए ग़रीब हैं, ज़हनों का इनक़िलाब रज़ाए ग़रीब हैं, मज़लूमियत का बाब रज़ाए गरीब हैं। मशहद की सरज़मीन की रौनक उन्हीं से है, फ़ारिस की आफ़ताब रज़ाए गरीब हैं। हिकमत से जिसने दीन खुदा को बचा लिया, इस दीन का आफ़ताब रज़ाए गरीब हैं। बाग़े नबी के फूल और उम्मत के खैर खाह, एक गुलशन शादाब रज़ाए गरीब हैं। ठुकराया तख्त और हुकूमत दिलों पे की, ठुकराया तख्त और हुकूमत दिलों पे की, बानी इनक़िता और गरीबुल वतन थे वो, खालिक का इंतखाब रज़ाए गरीब हैं। चालाकियाँ और साजिशें मामून की जो थीं, हर चाल का जवाब रज़ाए गरीब हैं। तोहफ़ा ये पेश करता है साबिक़ इमाम को, फिरदौस का एक बाब रज़ाए गरीब हैं। सलवात।
Thank you so much, Sayyid Akhtar. With the poetry, thank you. Another loud salawat, inshallah. With this poetry segment of our program done, we're going to move to a lecture by Sheikh Jafar, inshallah. With the loud salawat, please invite him to the member.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. به نستعين. الحمد لله الأول الحمد لله الأول وما قبله شيء، والآخر بعد كل شيء، والظاهر فلا شيء فوقه، والباطن فلا شيء دونه. ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين، لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين، أرواحنا له فداء. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن أريد إلا الإصلاح ما استطعت، وما توفيقي إلا بالله، عليه توكلت وإليه أنيب. صدق الله العلي العظيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته جميع المؤمنين والمؤمنات. First and foremost, I congratulate the Imam of our time and then all of you on the occasion which we have come to celebrate, and that is the birthday of Imam Ali ibn Musa Rida alayhi afdal salatu wassalam. And just in the opening and the beginning, as many of our du'as and requests has been for the well-being of the of Raisi, President Raisi, and the folks who are with him, just want to make this point, and it's a very beautiful point, and I think it is actually coinciding with this particular event. So if you read the Dua Tawassul Ghayru Mashhur, so there's one of the Dua Tawassuls that we recite normally, but there's a second Dua Tawassul, and it says it's Ghayru Mashhur, meaning that quite often we don't recite that particular Dua Tawassul. But if you recite that Dua Tawassul, you see that with each of the members of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdal salatu wasalam. You're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by their right, or that they also make dua on your behalf for certain things. So for the fortification of our iman, our faith, our belief, and our remaining on the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we make tawassul with Rasulullah, Fatima Zahra, Imam Hassan and Hussein alayhim afdal salatu wasalam. But when it comes to our safety in travel, the tawassul that we make, if you read that, it is with Imam Ali bin Musa Rida alayhi afdal salatu wasalam. And this is because one of the things when we examine the life of Imam Rida alayhi afdal wasalam, Imam Rida alayhi afdal wasalam made this journey from Medina to Khurasan. And of course, in the journeys then, and also in the journeys now, you still have certain dangers, certain elements sometimes that may impede the journey, or there may be unknown factors which make the journey unsafe. So we make tawassul with Imam Ali bin Musa Rida alayhi wasalam for that safe journey. So inshallah, likewise we make tawassul with Imam Ali bin Musa Rida alayhi wasalam that President Raisi and those who are with him, that they have a safe return, that inshallah the folks who are going out to search for them, rescue them, inshallah, that they are successful in their rescue mission. Salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. When we look at the life, or even the lives of the Anbiya and the Awliya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we find that they all have kind of a similar mission. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He points out that mission in verse 88 of Surah Al-Hud. So chapter 11 of the Quran, verse 88. And it's a very beautiful mission. But the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He explains it in this verse, we can see it in the lives, not of only the prophets, but also the lives of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdal salatu wasalam. So part of that mission, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He explains, or He narrates us through the voice of the Prophet Hud, where he says, Ma urid, or in uridu illa al-islah, mastata'tu wa ma tawfiqi illa billah. So he says that I want to correct, and this is what all of the prophets they came for. This is what the Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdal wasalam they stood for, that to correct things which are wrong within humanity, within the society. And that correction, as we also see, and inshallah we will be speaking about within a couple of months, when we commemorate the shahadat of Imam Hussein alayhi wasalam, that when he left, he says, I didn't leave for corruption, but rather to do islah fi ummati jaddi Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So this idea and this concept of doing islah, or correcting things which are wrong, is one of the most important missions of the Anbiya and the Awliya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we look at the life of Imam Ali bin Musa Rida alayhi wasalam, there's three areas of this islah that we can point out. And in fact, inshallah, in this lecture, I want to just highlight these three areas briefly. One of those areas of correction and islah has to do with the belief. So islah al-i'tiqadi. So correcting the way that folks, they believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, believe in prophethood, nubuwwat, imamat, ma'ad. So all of the areas of theology where sometimes there can arise certain questions or misconceptions about theology, about belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, about hereafter, about these ideas. So that's one area of islah that we find that Imam Ali bin Musa Rida alayhi wasalam, he worked tirelessly in order to correct things. Of course, as we read the life of Imam Ali bin Musa Rida alayhi wasalam, one of the things that we understand as well, that during his time, the Baytul Hikmah, the house of wisdom, had been established. Started by Harun al-Abbasi, and they kind of taken to its peak during the time of Ma'mun al-Abbasi. So Imam Rida alayhi salam often engaged in discussions, theological discussions, and also various other discussions as well. So Islah al-I'tiqadi, this is one of the areas where Imam Rida alayhi salam, he put a great deal of effort. The other area in which he put a great deal of effort as well, al-Islah or Islah al-Ijtima'i. So correcting the society. That what is it that the society needs in order to be on a good path, a path and a direction towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The third area where we will, inshallah, discuss very briefly as well is Islah al-Siyasi. So the corrective measures that Imam Ali bin Musa Rida alayhi that he made, or at least he advocated for within the political realm. In fact, this was, as I said, the mission of all of the prophets, Anbiya, the mission of all of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdhalu salatu. And one of the proofs of that is because, again, when they were martyred by those individuals who claimed that they had authority, governors and authority, is because they knew that if people followed the Ahlul Bayt, then all of the corruption that they had brought into society to fill their own pockets, to fill their own needs and desires, that will go away, and people will be on a path towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and justice will prevail rather than the corruption that they had kind of settled themselves into. Before I begin, one of the things I think is very important to understand, and that is the principles of that Islah, that correction, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he points out. First and foremost, as Hud, he states, he says, إن أريد إلا الإصلاح ما استطعت. ما استطعت. Meaning that one of the things that one must have is the ability. That I want to, as much as possible, as much as I can. So whenever we see anything that needs correction, first and foremost, the person has to have, in a sense, istita'a, has to have the ability. And what do we mean by that? Well, on one hand, it means that a person examines the situation. Doesn't mean that, oh, hey, yes, this thing needs to be corrected, but I don't examine, I don't understand, well, what is the best way to make change? What is the best way of correcting things which are wrong? And sometimes we, if we are really not thinking, we become reactionary. We say, oh, hey, this thing needs to be corrected. Rather than examining it, rather than studying it, rather than figuring out, okay, well, if I need to change X, how do I change it? What is the best strategy? What is the best way to, again, begin that change? And when we don't do that, we just rush into it, and sometimes we make things worse than what they are, rather than changing things for the better. So that principle of Islah, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he points out in the Quran, and of course this is what all of the Anbiya had, all of the Ahlul Bayt, mastata'tu, meaning that they understood the situation that they were in. They understood what was needed for that time and that moment. The second thing which is needed is, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he points out, he says, وَمَا تَوْفِيقِي إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. We need success, tawfiq. And we understand that when I'm making this effort to change things for the better or correct things which are wrong, that I make my effort. But the success of that is going to be upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So on one hand, that means that we don't look at something and say, oh, you know what? This can't be corrected. Again, that's a reaction. You know what? If I say something, I'm the only person saying something. If I'm holding the sign of protesting, I'm the only one who's doing it. No, if that's the best thing to do, then you do that. Even if you're the only person doing it. Even if you're the only person doing it. Why? Because you've examined, you understood that, look, this is what is needed, this is what is required, so I do that, I fulfill that, but the tawfiq, the success of my action, is upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alayhi tawakkaltu, as the verse it continues. Alayhi tawakkaltu. That I rely upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you don't become disheartened that, oh, well, you know what, I'm the only one who's doing this. I'm the only one who's protesting. I'm the only one who's objecting. No, tawfiq is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That we must fulfill our duty and our responsibility. When we understand this, this is when we are able to gain the most from the life of Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdalus wasalam. Really studying their life, really examining their life and how they did things. One of those places, as I said, that I want to just quickly and briefly go over, because again the time is not much, is the Islah al-I'tiqadi, that those corrective measures that Imam Ali ibn Musa Rida alayhi wasallam he made during his lifetime. And one interesting point, if we look at during the life of Imam Ali ibn Musa Rida alayhi wasallam, at least within the realm of those who claim to follow the Ahlul Bayt alayhi wasallam, this was a time period where you found no new claims of theological schools of thought. And what do I mean by this? So during that time period after the Shahadat of Imam Hussein alayhi wasallam and the wilayat and authority of Imam Ali ibn Musa Rida, Imam Sajjad alayhi wasallam, Ali ibn Hussein, Imam Sajjad going into also Imam Muhammad Baqir, we found the kind of rise of Kaysaniyya. That, there's a Kaysaniyya, then we had Zaydiyya, then of course during the time of Imam Sadiq alayhi wasallam, after his Shahadat, then we had Ismailiyya, we had the Fathi, we had Abtahi, we had all of these groups that claiming that, hey, this is where Imamate goes, or this is the idea, this is the concept of Imamate. After the Shahadat of Imam Musa Kadhim alayhi wasallam, also we had the Waqifiyya. So all of these different groups and factions came up saying that, if you follow the Ahlul Bayt alayhim wasallam, this is the way to do it, this is the way to do it. But during the time of Imam Ali ibn Musa Rida, and also after his Shahada, there was no group that said, hey, we are, the 8th Imamiyya, and we follow Imam Ali ibn Musa Rida, and after him we don't follow any other Imams. No, this was not the case during the time, or even after the Shahadat of Imam Ali ibn Musa Rida alayhi wasallam. So we see that this mission that he had to do, this Islah I'tiqadi, and it was successful. Bitawfiq Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That there were no new claims after that. One beautiful example of the type of, you could say, work that Imam Rida alayhi wasallam he did within this area of correcting theological ideas and concept is narrated by one of his servants, one of the individuals who was in the service of Imam Rida alayhi wasallam, by the name of Muhammad ibn Abdullah al-Khurasani. So he was one of those individuals who was in the house of Imam Rida. So he noted, he says, one day this individual came to the house of Imam Rida alayhi wasallam. He wanted to sit, he wanted to discuss and talk with Imam Rida. And apparently as he began to speak and he began to discuss things, of course, Muhammad ibn Abdullah al-Khurasani, he realizes this guy has no belief. He's an atheist, doesn't believe in anything. And Imam Rida alayhi wasallam, as he's speaking to him, he says, listen, he says that if, and he gives that kind of similar, he starts with that similar idea or concept of possibility. He's giving statistics or possibility that says, listen, and this is something that Imam Jafar as-Sadiq alayhi wasallam, he also did. He says, listen, if I'm making my salat and my fast and these type of things, and at the end of time, after we pass away, and he says, if there's no Yawm al-Qiyamah, there's none of these things, then you know what? What has my salat or my fasting, what has it done? What harm has it done? It has only set me in a position to do what? To live by a certain criterion or standard of goodness. Because that's what the salat is supposed to instill. Inna salata tanha anil fahsha'i wal munkar. That the salat, when it has its effect on a person, is supposed to keep a person to having good manners, being a righteous, upright, and an honest person. So what harm has come? And if truly there's nothing in the akhirah and you did nothing, so at least on that end, what harm has it done that you didn't do it? If that's the case. He says, but that's not the case. He says, but if there's the case or the possibility is that, yes, there's a Yawm al-Qiyamah and our actions will be taken account of, he says, at that point, he says, the harm will be for you, that you've rejected things. So then this individual who asks, he says, well, tell me, Ayn Allah wa kayf Allah? So how is he? Show me. In other words, he wanted to see, he wanted to feel, he wanted to be able to examine, he wanted to, again, place Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this kind of situation that if we can see him or we can perceive him with our senses, then he exists. And if he does, and if we can't, as he stated, as because Imam Rida alayhi wasallam, he says that Allah kayyaf al-kayf wa ayyan al-ayn, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he created this quality or quantity, and he created place, space, time. So he can't be contained by these things. So this individual says, well, in that case, he doesn't exist. Doesn't exist. I can't see him, I can't feel him, I can't. So Imam Ali ibn Musa Rida alayhi wasallam, and unfortunately, if we look, this is quite often, even now, a lot of the arguments of atheists. Oh, we can't place this being under our microscope. But what Imam Ali ibn Musa Rida, he says, listen, he says, all of these things, the world, time, space, the earth, wind, all of these things didn't come into existence by itself. And when you examine these things, you understand, or at least if you are rational in your thinking, that yeah, it's not haphazard. It didn't just pop out of nowhere. Just like our homes or anything that we build or anything, because didn't pop out of anywhere. So you use these things to infer. You use these things to understand that there's something else. Abstract thinking. And it's kind of interesting that even today, that, again, this is one of the arguments. Oh, well, we can't see, we can't feel. But when we look at other aspects within science, take antimatter, for example. What is antimatter? So, matter that has a negative charge of other matter. So, have you seen it? And if you look at what the scientists say, no, we haven't really seen it. But we've created, within a lab, we created artificially, we've negatively charged particles, so we have antiparticles, we have anti-elements that we've negatively charged. In other words, they've constructed this, they've created it, and says, oh, well, these are like the things that should be the results of, these cosmic crashes and things like that. So they're inferring. So it's not something that they've seen. Yes, they've kind of produced, but then they believe that it exists. Same thing, dark matter. So, okay, have you seen dark matter? No, we haven't seen dark matter. But we infer that dark matter exists. Why? Because, we can see that, okay, there's some sort of gravitational thing there. Gravitation, we can measure some but we haven't actually seen dark matter, but it exists. Why? Because we infer that it exists. You look at the signs of it and you infer that it exists. But subhanAllah, they can't look at the signs of this entire universe, even the antimatter that they believe in, even the dark matter they believe in, that it was created by something. It didn't just come out of nowhere. So Imam Ali ibn Musa Rida, alayhi hafizahullah, again, he provides us these tools to do what? To do islah i'tiqadi. And of course in other areas as well, which inshallah we don't have time to go in. But when it comes to that second aspect that Imam Ali ibn Musa Rida, alayhi hafizahullah, that he made a lot of effort in, islah al-ijtimai. So correcting this society. And what better way to correct the society in the direction of the society than correcting the most important element in the society? And what is that? The family. Family structure. Because if the family structure is not solid, then what type of society do you have? What type of society will you build? Again, the thing that makes up a society is, there's a family here, there's a tribe here, there's a nation here, and all of these families, tribes, nations, they interact with one another, they do business with one another, they make friendships with one another, they marry one another. If that basic unit of a society is not grounded, is not going in the right direction, then you'll see that the entire society is going to go in the wrong direction. So within this regard, Imam Ali ibn Musa Rida alayhi hafizahullah gives very beautiful advice. Very beautiful advice. He says, and two things, two simple things. He says, sil rahmaka walau bishurbatin min ma. The second thing he says, wa afdalu ma tusalu bihi ar-rahm kaffu al-adha an. Subhanallah. He says, mend the relationship with your family walau bishurbatin min ma. Even if it is drinking water, just to give water. That's the first thing. He says the second thing is that the best thing that you can do in order to maintain your family ties, he says, kaful adha anhu. Don't bother your family. Don't put too much pressure. And these almost go hand in hand. But sometimes when we look at our society, even now, I get so many requests that, oh, hey, Sheikh, this is happening in our family, that's happening. Sometimes there are situations that, very difficult situation, and you see that, this is, it's not going in the right direction. But a lot of times things can be prevented. And unfortunately, divorce has become on the rise. Why? Because of simple things. Simple things. Oh, well, one spouse says, oh, well, we have to have all these conditions, or this has to be done, this has to be done. When you look at those things that they're making conditions, like, wait a minute, this is not something that neither Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made conditions within the Quran, nor has the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salatu wasalam. That's what they're doing. It's like, where are you coming with these things? Well, in our culture this, or, oh, I've seen this. So, oh, subhanAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the structure that what type of family we should have. What is the basic foundation of our family? MashaAllah, and we are individuals who follow whom? The Ahlul Bayt. The Ahlul Bayt, the people of the house, the family. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and his family. So not only do we have that foundation within the Quran and within the Rawayat, we have the actual example before us, the Ahlul Bayt. But when we begin to decide, this is where my family is going to be, and why? Because this is the way we want it. Not that it's based on the Quran. Not that it's based on the riwayat of Ahlul Bayt or even the example of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad alayhim afdalus salam. Why? Because we're looking elsewhere. We're taking other examples and other models rather than seeing the model that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. And then we become, impatient with one another. Sometimes on very simple things. Oh, well, I want a divorce. Why? Because, my spouse leaves the top off the toothpaste. I can't stand that. Or, I come home after a hard day and, food is not cooked. All right. Imam Ali alayhi salatu, he would help Fatima. Even Fatima would ask for help. That, Ya Abul Hassan, can you clean the lentils? He was like, oh, yeah, I'll clean the lentils. Fatima to Zahra salamu alayha, what did she do? Imam Ali's rights were usurped. She went out and she protested. This is a family that understands that, how do we work together to make our family the best of family? How do we instill not only within ourselves the best of values, but we also instill it in our children, generation after generation. And the hikmah, the wisdom that Imam Ali ibn Musa Rida alayhi hafizahullah, he gives us in just these two things that we can do. Very simple. Listen, it's not a complex thing. He says, mend those family ties, silu rahimaka, walau bishurbatin min al-ma. The most simplest drink. You don't have to make dudh wala chai. No. You don't have to get Coke or Pepsi. No, water. Just give, mashallah. We said we have water. You don't have to make the best tea or this and that. No, let's sit, let's have water together. Let's drink a glass of water. وَكَفُّ الْأَذَى عَنْهُمْ. And don't bother, don't put pressure on your family members. Oh, hey, you gave me this chai and it doesn't have sugar. Or it has too much sugar. Or it's this way or that way. Subhanallah. Imam Rida says, look, the most simple thing. But when we complicate it, this is when our family gets into difficulties. This is when that basic unity of the society begins to fall apart. And when that begins to fall apart, the society begins to fall apart. And it does not work in our favor, does not work in the favor of society. In some cases, and we see this, it works sometimes in the favor of those individuals who are sitting at the top, who are oppressing others. Why? Because if there's chaos, then people are not paying attention to the zulm and the corruption that is going on. So inshallah, that's the second thing. The third thing that Imam Ali bin Musa Rida alayhi salatu wasalam, where he made corrective measures, as I said, Islah al-Siyasi, correcting the politics of the society. And of course, the politics of society and the direction that society should go in, as we look at the corpus of what Imam Ali bin Musa Rida alayhi salatu he did, and quite a bit of it is or was a reminder of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has established and what Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam he established. And just very quickly, just a few points that we see in the hadith and the life and the legacy of Imam Ali bin Musa Rida alayhi salatu. One is the emphasis on divine leadership. Again, very beautiful hadith, the golden hadith that Imam Ali bin Musa Rida alayhi salatu, he was well known for in Nishapur, that he narrated in Nishapur. Silsilatun Dhahabiyya, that goes from himself to his father all the way back to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and from Rasulullah to Jibreel, from Jibreel to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is that golden chain. But what we understand and what we see in that narration is what? This emphasis on divine leadership. Walaya. The emphasis on that when that divine leadership exists, that it must be from whom? From Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we begin to make our choices, what is our choices made upon? What principles that we often look at? Oh, hey, this guy is either from my tribe or he's this or that, rather than very rarely one says, okay, well, what is that person's deen like? That if he's going to lead or step in that position of divine leadership, what is his deen like? That's all I want to know. That's what I want to know. And that is the most important thing, right? Because even if a person's deen is correct, in those areas he says, oh, you know what? I actually don't know this. So you know what? I'm not going to answer. I'm going to go and I'm going to ask those people who know. What is that person's deen like? That idea and concept of imamate, the process of imamate, the process of successorship, these are the things that Imam Ali bin Musa Rida alayhi salatu he emphasized. The defense of the Quran and Sunnah. One of the very beautiful traditions, I'll just kind of end with this, where Imam Rida alayhi salatu he also narrates one of the traditions of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He says that the Prophet of Allah stated, "Man ahabba an yarkaba safinat al-najah wa yastamsika bil urwat al-wuthqa wa ya'tasima bihabl Allah min matin falyuwali aliyan ba'di wal yu'adi aduwahu wal ya'tamma bil a'immat al-hudati min wuldi." He said the Prophet of Allah, he stated that whoever wants to and desires to ride in the Safina to Najat, that what is the direction of our lives? Where are we going? And what is this safinatun najah? Inshallah, we'll get to this. That if you want to ride that is and hold on to this strong rope in the rope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then that person has to yuwali aliyan ba'di, has to accept the wilayat of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam. And has to accept the wilayat of the children of Ali, those who are chosen as A'imma alayhim salatu wasalam, A'immatul Huda, that they guide. And that guidance that they give, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He clarifies in the Quran, وَجَعَلْنَهُمْ مَئِمَّةً يَهْدُونَ بِأَمْرِنَا, that they guide by the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They guide by the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They guide by those principles that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He sets forth. Again, simply because of time, I didn't go through the entire part. I just read one part of verse 88 of Surah Al-Hud. But go and read this verse. Chapter 11, verse 88. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gives us, again, that foundation of divine leadership. And that divine leadership, first and foremost, is what? That these individuals, that they are ala bayyinatin min Rabbi. Meaning that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is overseeing their actions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who has given them, again, as I said, that when you want to do those corrective measures, you have to have understanding of that situation. Who gives them that understanding of the situation? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives it to them. على بينة من ربي ورزقني رزقا حسنا, and they've been given a great, and they have been given the best of sustenance. And that could be very broad. But one of those rizq al-hasana is that knowledge, that understanding of their situation, understanding of what to do and how to do it, when to do it. And then most importantly, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He points out, as in the, you could say, the words of Hud. But again, this is a general verse speaking about this divine leadership, where it says that, Hud, he says, وَمَا أُرِيدَ أَنْ أُخَالِفَكُمْ. I don't want to go against أُخَالِفَكُمْ فِيمَا أَنْهَاكُمْ عَنْ. That if I've said not to do something, then you won't see that me going behind your back and doing that thing which I've also prevented you from doing. In other words, isma. In other words, if they're saying that, look, this is what has to be done, or they're saying that this should not be done, they're the prime example of that. Because they're not disobeying the laws and the amr and the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if they're saying that, no, don't do this, you can be guaranteed that they are not doing it. If they say, oh, do this, you can guarantee that they are actually doing it. This is the divine leadership. So that is that safinatun najah. That has that bayyinah, that has that sustenance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is following even what they're saying, that there's an alignment with what they are saying and what they are actually doing. And that hadith, it continues, and I'll just go quickly. It says, فَإِنَّهُمْ خُلَفَائِي وَأَوْسِيَائِي. As the Prophet says, he says, these are my khulafa. These are my awsiya. These are the ones who are connected to me. That's one of the meanings of awsiya, that they're connected to me. How are they connected to Rasulullah? خَلْقًا وَخُلْقًا وَعَمَلًا بِأَمْرِ اللَّهِ. So in their mannerisms, in the way their lifestyle, they're connected to Rasulullah, even in their actions as they follow the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَحُجَّجُ اللَّهِ عَلَى خَلْقِ بَعْدِ. And they are the proof of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala after me, as this narration, after Rasulullah. وَسَادَةُ الْأُمَّةِ وَقَادَةُ الْأَذْقِيَاءِ إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ. And they are the ones who are the sadat of this ummah. They are the ones who will lead the atqiyah. In other words, that if you are going to be among the atqiyah, those who are conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then our lifestyle has to be their lifestyle. And they are leading al-atqiyah ila al-jannah, taking them to paradise. Hizbuhum, Hizbi wa Hizbi, Hizbullah. He says that their party is my party. In other words, who follows them, they follow me. And whoever follows me, whoever is part of my party, are part of the party of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, azza wa jalla. Wa Hizbu a'da'ihim, Hizbu shaitan. And those who are against them, their party is the party of shaitan. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among the Hizbul La'imma, Hizbul Rasulullah, Hizbullah, to make us among that party of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the party of Rasulullah, the party of the Ahlul Bayt, alayhim salatu wasalam, and not Hizbul Shaitan. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive our sins, to cover our shortcomings. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have mercy upon our deceased ones. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant shafa to those who are sick and ill among our friends and family members. Most importantly, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hasten the reappearance of Imam Zaman, make us among his helpers, his companions, and those who sacrifice their lives for him. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bihaqqi Ali ibn Musa rida to grant safe return to President Raisi and the party who was with him. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا محافظا وقائدا ومناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك وتمتع فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل.
إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر ولله الحمد. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله